Okay, so here we are in the collected essays class. Thank you. I'm also very excited to be in this class with you and to go through the chapters of the collected essays, not just as reading or studying, now to dive in it and see how it is part of all of us in the recognition of our true identity. So that being said, we just had a moment in which we were going into meditation, and a prayer. I will read that to you in a moment because it is so it's so to the point in for this class too, the whole idea of supply. So we used the collected essays of Joel Goldsmith, and it's a great pleasure to do that for me because of I love the pamphlets. Like they're small. When a book is thick, it takes a moment for me to even start it. But when I read a pamphlet, it's just like I can just do that in between, just like the art of meditation or whatever book you're using in this. It is not too thick, but there's so much in there and so practical. You can take it easily with you too. But now that all changed because of the electronic library that is available through the books of Joel Goldsmith. And so I have it always with me, and that means also in my phone I can just go there and read a chapter or read pages or read some prayer that is in there. That's really handy and really great. So I use that a lot. Anyway, so there's no requirement in having the book in following this class. It can just be a nice addition so that you can study yourself, that you can use these chapters just for the full remembrance of yourself in your true identity, like remembering during the day, what is the purpose here? Why am I here? What am I doing here? You know, because we get so easily distracted, and this is a great reminder. So that's why it's very useful to say use the book. But that's totally up to you. There's no necessity for it, because this class will be recorded and will be you can watch it on YouTube, and so in that sense you can have your reminder too, or in any way you can also meditate. Of course, you don't need anything to remember. In fact, so that being said, the collected essays, the first chapter that I use. I'm not going to do all the chapters, but the first chapter is supply. And this is the one that I thought like, oh wow, that's a real different kind of topic for me in terms of teaching or taking a look at. But at the same time, I recognize, oh yes, I have so many experiences with this in how I was looking and trying to find the way this works. Like, is there a way to make a deal with God that if I practice well, I get my rewards? Or, you know, like coming from a human way of thinking, there always seems to be a deal possible in which you give something and you get something back. So here, the whole nature of supply is going to be realigned. And just in one chapter, it's pretty amazing. So Joel starts immediately with Luke. He's reading from Luke. And I don't know if you read that, but it's Luke 12, I think it was. And it tells you about like why worry about supply. Look at the birds, you know, look around you, look at nature, look at, you know, all the beauty and everything that is growing, everything with a spark in it is connected to supply. And so it's very inspiring to me to read this and see it reflected in the places where you go. And I actually want to get started with the prayer that we used a moment ago in the meditation, just as an opening for this specific moment that we're together, and then I will continue on with what I was almost voicing already. So here, I'll get my prayer here. So this is our opening prayer for this class, if you want. This is my prayer, that I be God-governed, that I never forget to see God every moment of the day. I pray that I may never forget to thank God for my daily bread, never forget to realize God as the source of all, and that I am never unmindful of the limitless abundance of supply which God expresses through me to all those who come within the range of my consciousness. God's grace is with me throughout this day, and His presence goes before me and walks beside me. In this presence there's harmony and fulfillment, because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom from every and any limitation. So amen to that. That's why I loved to bring that in as an opening prayer, because it in fact tells you everything about supply, about the recognition that you are connected to Source. So that there are so many, expressions in there that are so clear and so bright, in fact, that I will use some of them in this class, and it is really pretty amazing. So, the remembrance of the fact that you are, connected to Source has an incredible impact on your whole vision about supply. So supply can be seen as, okay, so if I do my prayers right, I'm probably going to be rich too, like I will have everything that I need. But this is not what is meant here. And I'm praying better than my neighbor because I'm rich and my neighbor is poor is also not going to do it. So you see, like all these human ideas that we can take with us during this journey, and thinking just in a blink of a second is really the denial of what here is actually meant, of what Joel is trying to convey in this chapter. So the great thing with this is there's a realignment. Like I said, it will bring you back to the place to see things in the right perspective. So one of the things that he says, for instance, is this: truth, and this is huge for me too. It's like to hear this is like, oh, that's so great that he brings this in. Truth cannot be applied here. You know, there's no application of truth here. It is not about applying truth. See, that's huge, because it is what you try with your mind. Try to make sense of what is happening here, and using your spiritual background or your spiritual information to make that, so to beef that up, so to speak. And it has nothing to do with it. So there's no spiritual application of truth. And I was thinking about this because it actually shocked me when I read it. It was like, huh? What do you mean? What does that actually mean, that there's no application of truth? Like, we're looking for that, for the practical implication of this all, for the practical application. And that doesn't seem to work that way. So that took me a moment to look at it in a different way, or to feel that where it actually is meant, and then you see the beauty of it too. You know this, you know. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. You know, that is obvious, right? It's like, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It's just a matter of remembrance. I'm telling you how I remember this, what's being shared. And in that you can remember it too, if you forgot for a moment. But see, in our joint expression or a joint experience of truth, you only am confirmed in truth. So in other words, truth is. It doesn't need application. It is. And basically, it is the only thing that there is. Truth is true. It is the only thing that is true. The rest is nothing. Is not. Yeah, it's ephemeral. It's fleeting. It's going. It's changing. It's moving. It's transforming. But truth is. So that is okay. That is one that is right here. Like in that is my presence. Truth is. That's it. God is. That's it. You don't need God for the practical application in your daily life. No, God is. And that can be your awareness. That can be in your awareness. That can be in your remembrance. God is. I am. I and my Father are one. That doesn't need a practical application. No, it is the truth about you. See, totally different. So I love to discover this with you. It's like I love to discover this because it takes away the looking for how are we going to implement this into your daily life. Well, there's no way of doing that. There's only a way for you to remember that God is. And that is by doing that, by seeing that, by letting your eyes be open to see that, by looking long enough to something that appears to be changing and like fluxing, by looking at it long enough until you see beyond the appearance and discover that God is. You literally melt into the essence of it. So absolutely wonderful. I'm really happy that Joel put this in here. It was on page 8 or 9, I think, page 9 of the Collected Essays Supply chapter. So there are more of these expressions. I sent one to you, to the ones that are here in class. I sent one to you. I'm probably not going to find it back now, because that's always the hardest thing, it seems. Oh yeah, here it is. Well, that's good. Here's another expression. There's nothing from which we can ever suffer but the acceptance of illusion as reality. So there's nothing from which we can suffer except the illusion of our illusion of reality, thinking that we can replace reality with an illusion. This is what Joel says too. It's like, wow, that's a beautiful expression too, and very helpful. Like, there's no way that you can suffer if you are in your God is moment. If you are completely present here in I am, there's nothing lacking. There's no such thing as lack, disease, disaster, or death. That's impossible. No, truth is eternal. It is right here. It is happening in you. It is happening in this moment. It is what it is. So that is one expression with an incredible impact on, it's like literally your whole world starts to fall apart if you start to accept this as your truth. Like, oh my God, there is nothing that can hurt me, or there's no reason for me to suffer if I accept this as my truth and come into the experience of that. See, that's not a practical application. It is a decision. Either you choose the illusions to be your reality, or you choose reality to let that be. And this choice you in fact make in every moment. Every time you want to be distracted, you choose for the opposite. Every time you come to yourself, you dive into an experience of reality and the stillness that is in you. So supply is totally different than I first thought it would be. And I'm grateful that this is happening this way, and we will use more from the chapter. Yeah, it's great that he uses Luke 12:22 to 32. So he says the secret of supply is to be found in Luke 12:22 to 32. And he said unto his disciples, I'm reading a little bit of it. And he said unto his disciples, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, yet what you shall eat, neither for your body what you shall put on. The life is more than meat, and the body is more than raiment. And then he goes through, consider the lilies, but consider the ravens, consider the lilies, and on and on and on. But then the first question that he brings up is this. The question now arises, how is it possible to take no thought for money when pressing obligations must be met? How can we trust God when year in, year out, these financial problems confront us, and usually through no fault of our own? So that's interesting. So what's going on? You tell me this, but then what does that even mean? Like when I see that every month I need to pay my bills, and sometimes it doesn't go easy. Sometimes it's really hard to get it all by, or sometimes there's enough of all of it, or who knows what your experience is. Like, how am I supposed to look at this then? And then Joel starts to make the comparison with an orange tree. It's like, it is good to take a really good look at what is supply. Like, supply is really the connectedness, the communication with source. So that has a couple of implications, and I will say I will guide you through both of them. So one of them is this, it's like the orange can be taken from the tree, but that doesn't take away the source, so source is infinite. So you can eat the orange, no problem. And the connection with source does not evaporate, it doesn't go anywhere. No, this tree is connected to source. It has a spark of life. It is alive. Same with you. It's like this flows through you, like you're connected to source. See, and this is where I'm going to make a little step here, because to understand this well, or to feel it more than anything, it is good to see what you're doing in determining if there's supply, abundance, or lack. Because what is happening is when you base your judgment of your situation, so to speak, on your perception, you really think that there's something outside of you that is going to influence you or bring lack to you or something, like make a decision that something is determining the outcome for you. See, and this is where Joel gives instruction, like, no, that is not the case. No, there's no limiting power outside of you that can bring you in a state of lack. No, this is the really like the reversal of cause and effect, of source and effect. Because if you think that there's something outside of you that can determine something for you, then you get the result of that too. But if you realize, which we do with the meditation, which we do with the practice, if you realize that you are connected to source, and that is giving you literally living water, that is giving you like a continual abundance, why would you not trust that in terms of, yes, of course you are connected to source. That's what you know to be true. But why do you think that something is taken away from you, or that you don't have enough of something? That has always to do with a judgment about yourself, thinking that something outside of you can determine something for you. So Joel brings it back with some practical exercises, which you can do and read in the chapter. Maybe I'll read one as we go. So this is like, oh yeah, it's so good for me to remember. Yes, source is in me. See, I'm like this orange, or I'm like the branch of the vine. I'm connected to source. It's streaming through me. It's not about the oranges. It is not about how much money I have in the bank, or it's not about any of that. It has nothing to do with it. That is just an expression of the effect. But the direct connectedness to source is what brings the fulfillment, is what brings you in a state of abundance. How could you lack anything if you realize that for yourself? How could you miss something? How could anything go wrong with realizing that? So, and then, see, it is on whichever level of consciousness you're hearing this, or wherever you meet this information, so to speak, however you hear this is really important, because it determines how you experience yourself. And that is not difficult then to exchange that for a different vision. So that's why the practice comes in with the exercises that Joel is giving. But see, on the other hand, it is great to realize how simple this in fact is, and how easily this can come to you. It is really like having the idea close at heart, remembering it during the day, refreshing that in your memory. It's like, oh my God, yes, wait, I'm not believing any of this, perception, any of the mesmerism that I'm perceiving. None of that has anything to do with God is, with my being. It has nothing to do with my being. There's no practical application of God is. No, it is my truth. And in that, I'm an effect of God. I'm an effect of that, of my source. So that is sustaining me. That is giving me everything. Like literally, God is pouring love over me in every moment. So, just on this, as a little reality check for yourself. So, how many times a day are you aware of the fact that God is giving you everything? It's like, is that continuously the case? Wonderful. That would be lovely. If that might be like maybe 2 or 3 minutes a day, that's incredible too. But if this doesn't happen to you, or if you think like, well, that has been a while that I really experienced a sense of connectedness to my source, see, then there's a reason for you too, like for all of us, but there's a reason for us then to practice this, because of the fact only that this is how you experience your true nature. This is where you experience your source. You don't want to, hang in the dark, so to speak, while this is available. Hovering in walking around in darkness while this is available to you. And it is here, it's happening here. Like we started with the prayer. It's like, oh, let me not forget that this is my reality. Let me not forget the abundance I'm actually in the middle of. Let me not forget the incredible, infinite love my Father has for me. And the door that is always open to come back home. Always is that available. So then, like I said in the beginning too, it's like this world literally is made to distract you in all kinds of ways. It's literally made for it. But it doesn't mean that when you come into it, that you need to be distracted. No. So it's good to have you practice and train this for yourself, and keep prayers in your pocket, or sit for a moment whenever you have a moment to remember this, and to see that in that is supply, in that is the connection, in that is the remembrance of your true identity. In that moment that you do this, you're mindful of God is. You start to feel that. It starts to move through you. It starts to make decisions for you. You want that to be your source, and that you are just its effect. That's what you want. So that is all in this chapter. Pretty amazing, huh? Let us agree now to see that as we need take no thought for oranges, as long as we have the source or supply which is continuously producing fruit for us. So we need no longer take thought about dollars. Let us learn to think of dollars as we do of leaves on the tree, or oranges as the natural and inevitable result of the law active within. There is truly no need to be concerned even when the trees appear to be bare. As long as we are conscious of the truth that the law is even now operating within to bring forth fruit after its own kind. Regardless of the state of our finances at any given moment, let us not be concerned or worried, because we now know that the law acting in, through and as our consciousness is at work within us, when we are asleep as well as when we are awake, to provide all those added things. So that's a real reassurance of Joel here. Oh yeah, here's another one. See, about the things, the added things. Enjoy these things of the outer realm, but do not consider them as supply. Our conscious awareness of the presence and activity of the law is our consciousness of supply, and the outer things are the forms our consciousness takes on. The inner supply appears as the necessary outer things. Okay, so here are some practical exercises that Joel has given us. So this is on page 6 of the collected essays. So what must we do to keep ourselves free of these suggestions so that we can live above them? It's like, how can you do this? How can you be conscious of the idea of supply in a way that is, say, related to truth? First, we must live on a higher plane of consciousness. So far as possible, we must train ourselves mentally to know that anything that exists in the realm of effect is not cause, is not creative, and has no power over us. See, we have to train ourselves mentally to do this. So that is like, well, this is the practice of today. It's like you become aware that you have a choice in what are you going to take as your reality. What is it that is coming to you? Is that a source from outside, or is it just a reflection? Is it just, say, mesmerism? Is it just the illusion of the day? The dream that you find yourself in. So to train yourself in remembering then is to take time to do so. Very practical in that sense. It's like taking these moments during the day, 5 minutes meditations or 2-second meditations, or who knows what you can do in order to remember this. So that doesn't, in that sense, it doesn't take much effort to stay aligned. See, in my experience is to start your day right. That is totally helpful. And having that remembrance during the day with you, and remembering again and again. And it's like it is like a fire. It's starting to burn and starting to grow too. It's like you want more of it. You want to take more time for God, to realize God is, and that becomes stronger in you. Like continuously, it changes. It has a certain rhythm too in yourself. You recognize that probably too, but the practice is still the same. Yeah, it brings you back to right here, right now, being present, allowing grace to come to you, allowing the light to come into your mind. Just like that. Just like that. Here Joel says, we must begin our days with the inner reminder of our true identity. We must identify ourselves as spirit, as principle, as the law of life unto our affairs. It is a very necessary thing to remember that we have no needs, and that we are infinite, individual, spiritual consciousness, embodying within ourselves the infinity of good. Therefore, we are that center, that point of God consciousness which can feed 5,000 any day and every day, not by using our bank account, but by using the infinity of good pouring through us, the same as it poured through Jesus. We do not meet people with the idea of what we can get or what they can do for us, but we go out into life as the presence of God. So no matter what you do, you take that with you and you practice that. See, if we would do that, what can be the conflict in all of this? You know, what can be the conflict? So you see when you turn on the television or you look at your news app on your phone, you see that we're not all doing that. It's like there's still the idea that you might need something that actually belongs to someone else, or that you want just as much as your neighbor has, or who knows what it is, or you want to make a good deal that might not be so good for the other guy, but it is really good for you. You know, these principles are very familiar to all of us, and it's like inherent in the human mind. It is just there. So, see, then you see like, okay, am I going to listen to that, or do I love to play with that? It is actually really like looking at the idea of toys. These are toys, like mind toys that you use until you feel the pain that is connected to them. And then you give it up with the idea that you can't do that way anymore. But and up to that moment, you will still be choosing for that. Even though you might be meditating in the moment after that. And maybe having a great meditation, a great moment with God after you had a good deal. Who knows? You know, it's like it doesn't take it away at all. So there's no punishing God saying, oh no, you should not do that. No, it's really about your own awareness of, okay, I'm recognizing this as painful. Now, I was so used in doing this, suddenly I can't do this anymore. So this is what happens during your transformation from man, son of man, to the man of God, you know, the Son of God. So this is what I meant too, is like on whatever level you can hear this, this is all helpful to realize, okay, I'm source, you know, I'm connected to source. This is how I want to extend to my brother too. I want to recognize the oneness that is there. I want to recognize who he really is. I want to see in him like the Christ that is he. In that remembrance, I see myself as the Christ, you know. So this is always like that reflected to you. You give it to your brother in that sense. You give him the freedom of the moment in which you're not going to limit him in any way. Let him be free in order for you to be free. And this is not some kind of soft approach or practice. No, this has to do with recognizing the truth behind all of this, literally the supply behind all of this. And that is that we are one, and that in the recognition of that, it becomes true for you. By giving that away, it becomes true to you. You do that literally for yourself, which seems maybe even, say, egotistical, but which it isn't. No, you give this to your brother, and in that way you receive it for yourself. You literally start to demonstrate that yourself. And that works so well. Hopefully we're going to share some real great experiences of that in class too with the ones that are here. I would love to hear more about your experiences in this, like your amazing discovery that you did by recognizing and that supply is always there, that it is given us to share this and be grateful for it. So thank you for joining me in this, and in class online we continue with our sharing and sharing the joy of recognizing the truth in ourselves. And so I hope to see you soon, and thank you for everything. I love you. Thank you.